Things need to change down there. They really do. And I'm really not the person to say any more. So let's get on to what you all came here for. Taking out the trash. Hi, folks. My name's Mark. Welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about movies, music, art, and culture. And today we're going to be talking about the new album from Chase Rice, titled Ignite the Night. Now, there's one thing that tends to be true about all trends in music. The acts that tend to jump on the trend the last tend to be the absolute worst. We're talking about a group that's not perceptive enough to realize that the trend is dead and gone already, the group that are gunning for the quick cash-in at the very end, and those who aren't talented enough to ride the wave when it first began to crest in terms of popularity. And thus, as I had chronicled the rise and subsequent collapse of bro country in the mainstream, I dreaded the acts at the tail end of that trend. The ones who owed their careers to helping craft the material behind the scenes and now finally had their chance to get a hold of the spotlight for themselves, if only for a brief time. And thus I couldn't help but feel a certain amount of dread when I prepared to look at the major label debut album of Chase Rice, who is most notable for his big single, Ready, Set, Roll, that's only now managing to inch its way up the charts. And really, that song just annoyed the piss out of me right out of the gate. A grab bag of bad country cliches of some of the most sterile and electronic production that I've heard this year in country music outside of Sam Hunt, Jason Aldean, and Cole Swindle. And like Cole Swindle, he got his start writing for other country acts, most notably co-writing Cruise with Florida Georgia Line, a song I don't exactly dislike, but one that doesn't inspire anything close to, intelligence. Now, to be fair, like Florida Georgia Line, Chase Rice at least seemed to be having a certain amount of fun in his song, and I can appreciate that. And I had heard some rumors that some of his deep cuts actually did talk about things outside of the traditional bro country catalog, and I that could be good. So I steel myself for the absolute worst, hope for the best, and looked at his major label debut album, Ignite the Night. What'd I find? Well, I pretty much got exactly what I was expecting. In fact, I got simultaneously more and less, which at least makes this album interesting to talk about, to say the least. However, this interest is for all the wrong reasons, because Ignite the Night by Chase Rice sucks. A lot. A sloppy, derivative, poorly produced mess of an album that, if there was any justice in this world, would be the end for bro country as we know it. Pack your shit, folks, it's been real. And now what's all the more infuriating is that there are so many signs of potential on this album that there is no goddamn excuse for this record to come out this poorly at the end of it. So, okay, before this review goes downhill fast, too late, let me stress that there are a few things about Chase Rice as a performer that, well, kind of work. For one, he's not a terrible singer. He's got a bit of grit in his voice and a decent enough amount of charisma, and the mix often places him right at the front in order to best maximize his presence, and that's something you want to do on a major label debut. He doesn't have the boundless raw charisma of a Jake Owen, or the rich baritone of a Chris Young or a Luke Bryan, or even the hangdog roughness of a Billy Currington, but his vocals have a little bit more polish and subtlety than Florida Georgia Line, and you can tell that he actually does believe what he's selling, and that means a lot to me. And on top of that, from a technical songwriting point, he and his arsenal of collaborators, they do have a knack for a fast-paced, very wordy brand of songwriting that plays pretty well to the pseudo-rap cadence that he's got going on here. And I'll say this in Chase Rice's favor. He never comes across in his songwriting or his delivery like an asshole or a creep or like Tyler Farr or Thomas Rhett. And this album mostly stays away from bad breakup songs to not spoil the good time party vibe. And really, that's probably the best thing you could hope for in this album, because really, this record coast on trying to maintain that party vibe. The majority of the songs on this album fall into one of two camps: party jams featuring all the same hallmarks of bro country you've heard time and time before, and romance songs, where a lot less about the romance in the van of Blake Shelton or Chris Young, and a lot more about Chase Rice drooling over the girls that he writes in detail. And despite the pile-up of bad lyrics, we're getting to those, don't worry, what really hurts these songs is conceptually, there's barely anything to them, even by bro country standards. Ready, Set, Roll, Do It Like This, Girl, U-Turn, 50 Shades of Crazy, How She Rolls, they fall into the party hookup vein and feature lyrics that you could swap out from song to song across any bro country artist and album that dropped last year. Hell, even this year. And We Going Out, What's Your Name, and Gonna Wanna Tonight, they aren't far removed from that template either. The first aspiring to be an epic bro party anthem, and mostly failing, and the latter two are just hookup tracks that frankly we've heard better. Hell, Beer with the Boys is really just just a dumber, slightly more upbeat version of Luke Bryan's Crash My Party, and Look at My Truck is really just a song showing off his beat-up truck and some memories to accompany it, just to impress some girl, which is really something that's hidden behind some pretty decent description. But the frustrating thing about all this is when Chase Rice gets away from all that, he can write some actually pretty decent songs. Beach Girls, a song about writing about a fling on the sand, which is pretty well done. Carolina Can is a song where Chase Rice is trying to cope with the loss of his father through reconnecting with his roots in the North Carolina. And Jack Daniels and Jesus, easily the best song on this album by a mile, if you can believe it, is a piano ballad showing his estrangement from his family thanks to alcohol abuse and his loss of faith. It's a shockingly real and very personal song that shows Chase Rice might have some real serious promise and chops as a dramatic songwriter. So why does over half of this album feel completely interchangeable? Well, okay, interchangeable except for some of the awful lyrics. I'll give Chase Rice some points for being able to set a scene very descriptively, but I'm immediately taking those points away from some truly questionable, if downright inexcusable songwriting. Putting aside the fact that nobody wants to taste moonshine on the lips of their date when they're making out on the song Do It Like This, does any girl looking for guys want to be described as having their tummy on the prowl? I mean, really? Is it ever a good idea to compare your planned party to the lecherously creepy and genuinely repulsive film Project X from 2012? Was that ever a good idea? Or to make Usher references on U-Turn that are a good 10 years out of date? Dude, don't drag Usher into this. You aren't even on his plane of existence with regards to talent. Don't even try here. Or 50 Shades of Crazy, a lazy reference to the titular book that doesn't even bother to reference the book or BDSM or anything about the girl that might be considered remotely crazy. That's one of the most obnoxious things about this album. It describes girls only by what they look like, not what they, actually do. There's no stories here beyond Chase Rice's own story. And wow, that's kind of compelling when you see some of the deeper, more personal details. When all the women, they start to feel like sexy paper cutouts that really start to blur together, which makes a lot of the songwriting behind them painfully interchangeable. The same bro country cliche girls with different flavors of lip gloss. Now granted, that's not the only place on this album where the songs feel somewhat interchangeable, and this takes us to instrumentation and production, and really where to start. The ubiquitous, incredibly stiff drum machines, or the synthesizers that feel completely incohesive with any guitars or real drums. And to their credit, it looks like the producers realized that the synthetic elements dumped all over this album didn't fit with any guitar texture, and their solution was to crush the guitars into a thin-sounding slurry that runs together with the cymbals, synths, and whooshing reverb into a melodyless mass, then tries to crank it up as much as they possibly can to give it whatever sort of presence possible. I challenge anyone to remember a single instrumental melody line from this record on some of its big singles that stands out as memorable, most of which are coming from these painfully watery guitar lines that have no presence whatsoever against Chase Rice's voices and sound really awful against the acoustic instrumentation. And you know what? Look, there are moments on this album where the instrumentation is not all bad. Carolina Can and Gonna Want It Tonight has a certain ghostly swell to it that definitely betrays Shane McAnally's influences in the songwriting. You can't really escape him there, but that's a good thing. But when you throw in drum machines and very obvious auto-tune, it just doesn't fit with the instrumentation. It comes on tacked on unnecessarily. Oh, let's call it. It comes across as tacky. The shrill keyboard tone on Look at My Truck, the sputtering beat and synths of U-Turn, the drum machines all over the sound. Look, thanks to his guitar tones, Chase Rice is already playing some of the most polished and sterile country music devoid of any interesting melodies, but why make it worse by minimalizing those melodies when they're going to be the hooks that make people remember your songs? Again, the best song on this album is Jack Daniels and Jesus, because it's a stripped back piano melody that features clear tones, pretty strong melody, and keeps it simple. Once again, it's a genuinely good song, and that's why this record really gets on my nerves as much as it does. Chase Rice could have done better than the sterile bro country slurry that he pumped out. Hell, the song How She Rolls has some clear vestige of some guitar texture, so it's very clear that he could have added some grit to these songs, and he didn't. I don't mind good time party music or pop country or even bro country done right, but give it some flavor, some lyrical personality that I haven't heard before. Chase Rice, however, is playing to the lowest common denominator. Leering, shallow, recycled, and completely forgettable. And he is better than this. 3 out of 10, ignore this album, and maybe just maybe, it'll be the death knell that bro country so richly deserves. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. If you'd like to like and subscribe, I'd be more than grateful, even though I can't imagine why. If there's anything else I might be able to do to improve my presentation, or if there's anything else that any other albums coming out that you want me to take a look at, I'd be more than happy to give them a listen. That's why I listen to this thing. Until then, I'm Mark, you're watching Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.